Welcome in, my friends. It is the end of September. I figure why not talk about EVs and EV credits. Now, my show has a little bit of a sordid history with EV episodes. We've definitely hit a nerve in the past. And look, I've evolved, people. Okay. I really have when it comes to EVs. I get how an EV and a gas together equals a hybrid makes a lot more sense than anything else out there. Now, I'll get to that in a second. But as I talk through the concept of EV right now, we're at the end of the government mandate. Not mandate, excuse me, the government reimbursement, if you will, the rebate system, and incentive, government incentive to purchase EVs set up by previous administration, current administration, not in agreement, et cetera, et cetera. What now, right? Manufacturers during COVID thought it was a reset, an opportunity to do everything differently. God, what a waste of fucking money that's been for people. And they decided to go way too head over heels because people started to do mandates that were unrealistic, concepts that were stupid and not thought through, and that were more about trying to force something in and down the consumer throat, as well as the small to medium businesses throat, instead of stepping back and considering exactly what we were trying to accomplish. Now, doesn't matter, right? That's what happens. So then the manufacturers go, deep into EVs, and so now we're in a situation where they're the EV sort of crossroads, right? What shall they do? What will they? Which will they go next? And it's interesting. My buddy Ryan Austin at Being Social, he brought up how back in the 1900s EVs were a thing. Gas was a thing. Hydro was a thing, or steam it might have been. I guess hydro, ancestors. And so the concepts are not new, right? Gas won out, then petroleum in general, gas, gas stations, et cetera, et cetera. And now that looks different with EVs, charging stations. Always kind of an interesting piece there. Again, if you don't follow Ryan, you should. When he travels, he likes to rent EVs, and he likes to go through the whole process of what happens to him on those. It's great content. He's awesome with it. Check him out again if you haven't. That's OSTEN, the CEO of LightFlow, my friends, LightFlow. But anyways, on the EV, so consumers are no longer going to be as deeply incentivized. So then that leaves it to the OEM to deeply incentivize the consumer. Will they do it? Do they care? Ooh, these are questions, right? Questions without answers. And so, yeah, that's a big part is I don't know if they care. They've invested a lot, so I assume they do. So I assume you'll see aggressive rebates. As I understand it, this is the end of a pretty big leasing period for some EVs as far as some of the OEMs go. And so that lease period, this is kind of an interesting time, right? Will people renew, upgrade? Did they already move out to another EV? Did they go back to gas? That's the shit that fascinates me, that I really wonder is, as you go down the EV train, do you stay there, right? Or do you back out? And I'll tell you from my perspective, never huge on the renewable energy stuff, EVs or solar panels or anything like that. Just slow mover, slow adopter. And now I'm making the move in my own solar world, right, for the house. And so, because why, right? The end of a great incentive to do so. That leading up till now, it was like, I don't know, whatever. If we do, we do. But now that it's being taken away, nothing creates urgency more than removing something, right? So I assume that's what's been happening. And that's what I've definitely heard and seen in the data for EV vehicles, right? That's definitely happening. So now the question then remains, like I say, where does the OEM go now? My guess is, and it would make most sense, so it probably won't happen, is you go the hybrid road. You're like, look, we did the EV thing. We saw the interest. We did the gas thing. We've been doing that. We know that. If we can put those two together, are people more interested? Maybe they are. Maybe they aren't. But it seems like the next logical place for the OEM to take themselves. And so with it, the dealer now will be either stuck with EV inventory it can't sell because there is no incentive on it, or it will become the product people are looking for because they have not over incentivized, but put a ton on it. Maybe there are lease deals. By the way, OEMs, I think I say this at least once a year for the last 10 years. If you want to sell more cars consistently, lease more cars, have better lease deals, get back in the leasing business. You see, my friends, that's what will help you do anything. We also talked, Ryan also talked at Being Social about a used car dealer, I believe in Salt Lake, sells just EVs, and he sells like 200 a month or more, maybe 300. And how does he do it? Well, look, it's all about deals, right? It's all about price. It's all about what you can get into. It's all about cost versus, an older car, the used car market, a newer EV that's used, et cetera. But there's a lot to learn and understand there. And, that's what I learned from Ryan. At the show was that it's not just the battery is the most important. Mileage means shit. This isn't a motor like you and I think about it. And that fascinated the shit out of me. And it really got me thinking, okay, so then what isn't there a great marriage? I believe that is the consumer interest ultimately. I believe long term that is their interest. And I say that because Prius took off well before anything else did. And it was hybrid model, right? So there's something to be said about where that all starts and where that all finishes. And so, look, I'm going to be interested to watch and see. OEMs will also be a deciding factor to some extent. If they've gone deep and have no real reversal opportunity, then they have to continue to build what they build. Now, factoring on top of all this, the T word in tariffs, and I don't know. I look, seriously, no idea what that costs or doesn't cost, but I've heard rumors about, just for instance, what it costs for the EV bus, the VW EV bus. It sounds expensive, the tariffs. And so how long can someone sit in those? And then incentivize as well. If that's attached to a lot of EVs, likely that's a problem long term, right? So yeah, I worry about that part of it. I also realize that there are service implications that come with that. Oil changes, now battery checks are the new oil changes. So there's, that was always a concern of dealers getting into EVs. Where's the return? Where's the service? Because frankly, if anyone knows anything about car dealers, money is not made selling cars. It's made servicing cars. I don't know. Again, the consumers will dictate some of this because I think they already have to an extent. But above that, the OEMs will be the next one in charge to decide if we're going to sell them and they're going to be tariffed, how the hell are we going to incentivize to move them? Because right now, adoption isn't enough, in my opinion, to have done that. Now, I've debated this, and I wish I would have debated this with Ryan in person. Now that I look back at it, Ryan, if you're watching the show, I'd love to hear your opinion. I think adoption would have happened even faster if Elon would have gone the dealership route right away. Because he could have controlled everything else up until there, which is really what, this is about staying in your lane shit as far as I'm concerned. I know direct-to-consumer always seems better, but it doesn't matter. So you could have gone the model. You could have gone straight down the model. You could have tried Saturn again in the U.S., but made it around EVs and been fine. That could have been a great manufacturer partnership. And I think adoption would have happened way, way faster. I don't think there'd be any question about adoption at this point in our lives from where Tesla started and try to go the independent sort of rage through model that ends up, I think, costing down the road. And I think you're seeing that now. I really do. I really think had it been part of the franchise dealership model, man, I think the dude would be even richer. I mean, honestly, I really do. I'm hard pressed to not believe it because he could have controlled everything like OEMs do as far as he wanted. He could have mandated that. And maybe people wouldn't have want to be a part of it, but maybe people would have been. And the people who would have adopted, then they and he, like I say, I think would be much richer. But I guess it remains to be seen. Cutting out the middleman, vertical integration. Vertical integration, folks, rarely works in any business ever. You're hard pressed to be great at everything. You really are. So then for me, I'll close it out with this. Hybrids, I'm down. A hybrid future, I get. I'm totally hip to. Straight EV, probably not for me. I live in the country. I drive a lot around the country at times. Not a range anxiety thing, just more of a waiting frustration thing. I'm not patient. So that's me. Let's talk about it, folks. Where are you? Are you EVs? Are you hybrid? Who do you think makes the call? Let's talk about it. Go out and have yourselves a wonderful week. Next week on the show, it's time I give a little bit of time on this show to AI. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Thanks a lot. Have yourselves a great week, and we'll see you again next week.